Okay, we are going to begin our yoga class today. Starting with our relaxation, we'll come down into Shavasana or any relaxation pose that is comfortable for you when you're ready. And we can take ourselves there now. So if you haven't yet gotten your room ready, go ahead and lay your mat flat down, ensuring that any distractions have been turned off or you've accepted our present. And then as we find ourselves in our relaxation pose, we try to close our eyes, focus our thoughts, and relax our body. Beginning to pay more attention to our breathing. Focusing on our inhale and focusing on our exhale. Noticing with each breath in, the rise of our belly, the expansiveness of our rib cage, our chest. And when we breathe out, feeling that softness washing over us. Granting ourselves permission at the beginning of our practice to dedicate this time to our mind, our body, and our spirit, recognizing that anything that matters or is important and must get done will be there after our practice is concluded. With our next inhale, go ahead and reach our arms long up over our head. Take a nice big stretch. As we reach our arms up overhead, just notice how this feels through the shoulders, warming up our body, preparing for our practice. While we're here, go ahead and reach a little bit farther over to the left side. Doing this however it's comfortable. Reaching a little bit more over to the left or the right this time. We'll come through the middle and release our arms down. When you're ready, go ahead and draw the knees into the body. Give yourself a wonderful big hug. Holding the shins or behind the knees and then beginning to rock right to left. As we pull the thighs in towards the belly, perhaps we notice any tightness through our hip flexors. As we rock side to side, we may notice some tension through the lower backs. Now, holding the knees still, go ahead and start to roll through the feet, working through those ankles, encouraging blood flow down through the toes, preparing for our single leg stretch. We'll keep a hold of our right knee and lower that left leg all the way down to the ground, pulling our right knee out and open towards our right shoulder. Now I'll ask that we pay attention to that left hip. As we firmly press it down into the leg, we may notice that active stretch as we lengthen the muscles across the front of our hips that get so tight and short while we sit all day. And we'll draw the knee over towards that left shoulder now. And we can pay attention to the outside of that right hip, working up through our glutes. Try to relax our shoulders and our face. Coming through the middle and release the leg down to the ground. Inhaling the left leg in, and we can gently open that leg out slightly towards the left shoulder. And now again, let's firmly press that right leg down into the ground. Notice any active tension as we lengthen the front of our hip. Pulling the knee over towards the right shoulder, continuing to hug the thigh in towards the body, noticing any stretch now through the outside of that left side. Coming through the middle and releasing down. We'll take our feet flat onto the ground, close in towards the body with our heels as our arms come down by our sides, preparing for glute bridges. Roll the shoulders, lengthen the neck. Now inhale, we lift the hips up towards the ceiling, and exhale, slowly lower. Inhale, lifting through the hips. I love this articulation through the spine, working through the upper backs particularly. Exhale, lower. Inhale, lifting up, trying to keep hands and feet flat on the floor. Exhale, release. We'll do this one more time. Inhale, lifting up through the hips. And exhale, slowly lower down. Very nice. From here, walking our feet out slightly, taking hands to side of head as we prepare for a few slow abdominal crunches. Tucking in the chin, we inhale, lift the head and shoulders. Exhale, lower down. Inhale, slight tuck, lift up. Exhale, lower. Inhale, lift, trying to keep the hips still throughout. Do a few more on your own time. Never pulling on the neck. Head rests in the hand, leading with the forehead, coming up with the strong contraction of the abdominal muscles. We'll do one more to finish. Amazing. Let's take our arms out to the side, walk our feet out as wide or even wider than our mat, preparing to loosen up through the hips and back with some very wide windshield wipers that we can do on our own time, fast or slow, rocking those knees very gently, right to left, noticing what we're feeling. If at any time you realize while we do a few more of these that you need to hold something or adjust, please do so. We're really exploring the body. I love the investigative nature of yoga, getting a better understanding of our body and how it works today. Coming through the middle, release those legs as we fall over to the side, bringing ourselves up onto hands and knees so that we can do a few cats and cows. Placing our hands directly beneath our shoulders, knees are underneath our hips. We'll inhale, open the chest, lifting tall through crown of head. And exhale, tuck the tailbone, ground the back up nice and high to cat. Inhale, open. Exhale, round. Inhale, open, leading with the tailbone. Exhale, tuck the tailbone, belly's in. One more of each. Inhale, open. And exhale, round it nice and high. Pushing back into child's pose. Modifying however you need to. Extending those arms. Sinking low into the hips. Taking a body scan as we check in with every part of our body. Breathing deeply. Preparing for our modified flow series. We inhale forward into a kneeling plank, resting on hands and knees. Exhale, lower so that we're hovering above the mat in our baby crocodile. Inhale, press straight up. And exhale, push back into child's pose. We'll do this a few more times. Inhale forward into kneeling plank. Exhale, lower. Inhale, press straight up. Exhale, push back. Inhale forward. Back is nice and flat as we exhale, hover. Inhale, push up. Exhale, push back. One more time. Inhaling forward. Exhale, lower. Inhale, press up. Exhale, resting back, holding this a moment as we find our child's pose. Now, while we're here, I'll ask us just to take a few deep breaths. Really paying mind to whether or not we are getting distracted easily today, if we're finding it easy to stay in touch with our body, or if we have to work a little bit harder, focusing on your breathing if that helps. Now from our child's pose, we're going to rise up into our tabletop position, joining me now on hands and knees. At this point, I'll ask us to take our right leg out to the side in a half froggy position. So from tabletop with our right leg now extended, I want us to lift our left arm up nice and high to the sky and then thread all the way under, finding thread the needle. At this point, if you are not enjoying the half frog, please feel free to bring both knees back down into tabletop. Otherwise, we can take that right hand, either reaching forward, or sometimes it's nice to reach it into our back pocket. We'll hold this for a couple of breaths. Listening to the body, making as many adjustments as often as you require. One more inhale. Taking that hand up. From tabletop, we bring the leg back in, and now we'll extend that right foot behind us and cross it over that left leg. So we bring it just over to the left side. Now at this point, I want us to lean a little bit into that right hip. So if our right leg is crossed towards the left, now we're adding in a little bit of rotation, leaning into it, targeting the stretch along the outside of that right hip. Again, if this ever bothers anyone's knees or we're not enjoying the leg extended, you can hold this in tabletop and do it that way. Now from that crossover position, we'll come back through tabletop, taking ourselves into a lizard position, reaching the right foot. So we're still working on the right leg. We'll lift it up and over on the outside of our right hand. A lunge position that we're still kneeling in with that knee stacked directly above ankle. I line my arm up with my shin. So the arm and leg are running parallel. Now notice if we prefer to turn that right toe out to the side, or if you like keeping the foot running forward. At this point, you may start to feel an intense amount of sensation along the inside of the hips. If you need more, I'd recommend coming down onto your forearms. However, this may be a little bit too intense for us today or at this point right now. Listen to the body. Try to keep your big toe on the floor as we take a couple more big breaths. Now slowly, we'll take our hands up. Keep your leg where it is for the time being, and gently heel toe it in so that your right hand can now come on the outside of the leg, more in a proper kneeling lunge position. Taking the left hand now to the inside of the foot, whether you're flat palmed or fist. I prefer fists, resting on my knuckles just because it gives me a little bit extra length in my arm. We'll find a twisted lunge, lifting the right arm high to the sky. So as we look over that right arm, we want to ensure the knee stays above the ankle, big toe stays on the floor, and we'll feel a nice stretch through the right hip, the outer thigh, maybe through the arm or the shoulder. As we hold twisted lunge, if the arm is uncomfortable, feel free to take that into the back pocket. Noticing any sensation through the hips. Slowly releasing forward. We'll take the knee back behind us. And now from here, let's find our very first downward facing dog. Curl the toes, lift our hips, and establish our stretch. If today's a day that we're choosing not to do down dog, we'll be holding child's pose at this point. Now, as this is our down dog, that's the first one we've taken today, I'll encourage us to walk in place, toe to heel. I love walking dog, pedaling the feet from right to left foot. Encouraging lots of circulation, working through the fascia, the arches. Noticing any stretch through the calf muscles, the hamstrings. And now we'll start to settle the movement. Keeping our feet roughly placed hips width distance apart, driving those heels down towards the floor, the tailbone up towards the ceiling, pressing the chest in between the shoulders. At this point, feel free to stay in our stretch, whether it's down dog or child's pose, or you can join me in our flow series 2 times through. Inhaling forward through plank. You can keep your legs straight or bent with the knees coming down to the floor as we exhale, chaturanga, that slow, controlled lower to the mat. Inhale, lifting up through cobra. And exhale, press back, down dog or child's pose. We'll repeat the flow one more time. Ready? We inhale forward. Exhale, slow lower. Inhale, cobra, lift up. Exhale, pressing back, down dog or child. From our stretch, let's come into tabletop position once more. Resting hands and knees on the ground, making any adjustments we need to feel comfortable as we begin our lunge series. Now with the left foot extending out to the side, finding that half froggy position. So from here, with our leg extended, we'll take our right arm up. Nice inhale, preparing for thread the needle, bringing the arm underneath that left shoulder. We can lay into the right ear and extend the left arm either forward or into that back pocket, adding a little bit of a rotation. Holding our thread the needle in our half frog, unless it's bothering anybody's knees, and then feel free to take tabletop or child's pose. One more inhale. Slowly releasing our hands, helping our knee come back into tabletop, making any adjustments necessary as we prepare for that abductor crossover. Taking the left leg, extending it back and crossing it over the right. From here, we're going to add just a little bit of a twist. So I dip my left hip down towards the ground, leaning back just a little bit more into that left side. An amazing stretch down that left part of your torso through the obliques, past the hip and into the thigh. Some of us will feel this quite a lot, and others it may not be that intense, depending on what we got up to yesterday. Slow, deep breath. And releasing through the middle again. Making those adjustments, preparing for the lunge now with the left leg. We're going to sweep the foot outside the left hand into our lizard. Now you may need help getting the foot there. You may need to broaden your stance or deepen your stretch by bringing that back knee behind us. We want to line the shin up with the forearm of the left arm. Keeping the big toe on the ground may require you to externally rotate the foot, whether you're turning it in or out. And then while the knee stays stacked with ankle, we decide if we need to try coming down onto our elbows, working with fairly level pelvis to the ground, not twisting too much. And as our backs will round if we come down, we still want to make sure that we're basically moving as a hinge from the hip. Taking nice slow deep breaths, holding our lizard stretch, targeting that groin area, the inside of our thigh. Take our time coming up onto our hands. With our left foot now, bring heel toe, heel toe, heel toe into a modified lunge, keeping that back knee on the ground, preparing for a twist. Now, whether it's a flat right hand or knuckles, we bring the hand underneath the shoulder, beside the foot, and then when you're ready, twisted lunge, we lift that left arm high to the sky or rest it back into the pocket, ensuring that we're never leaning or sinking into the right arm, but instead, very strong supported shoulder, lovely collarbone, always open through our heart center. Noticing any stretch that we may be experiencing through the pelvis, front or sides of the thighs. Holding our twisted lunge for one final inhale. Exhale, release the hand down. Slowly, it's a lot of sensation through the hips right now. Bringing the leg back and coming up into down dog or child's pose. And let's take this opportunity for a body scan. Whether we're moving through our stretch or we're holding it, noticing how everything's starting to feel, preparing for our flow series if you're choosing to do that portion of the practice right now. Inhale forward, plank position. Exhale, chaturanga, slow controlled lower. Inhale, cobra stretch. Exhale, pressing back, down dog or child. Last time if you're flowing. Inhale forward. Exhale chaturanga. Inhale cobra. Exhale pressing back, down dog or child's pose. Holding our stretch for a moment and preparing for our next flow series, which will be a pigeon flow. Getting into this however you need to. Some of us prefer to start in tabletop. Some of us even prefer to lay down completely on our backs and doing a figure 4 pose or an upside down pigeon. I'll be cueing it from 3-legged dog. Please join me however you need to. We'll inhale, lift the right leg up all the way to the sky. And on our exhale, we tuck the knee in, drive the foot towards the left hand, and let the knee fall towards the right hand, working our shin towards a parallel to the front of the mat. And then we'll push that left leg back, looking over the left shoulder, ensuring we know exactly where the leg is, working on that spatial awareness. We square the hips and shoulders to the front of our mat, and we rest either on hands, elbows, or maybe even resting completely down with the head. Noticing any sensation through the outside of our right hip. Noticing too, if we're feeling guarded and defensive, really working on that exhale. Giving ourselves permission to focus specifically on that right hip and sending our energy, sending our breath, sending our clean, healthy, oxygenated blood right into that hip, encouraging the recovery. Two more breaths here. And then we'll slowly work up onto our hands. Take our time. If we're on our back doing upside down pigeon, you'll rest and stay on your back. Otherwise, coming up into down dog or child's pose. Feeling free to hold this position or wiggle or work through it so that we can repeat that on the other side. So if you're laying down, crossing the foot over to figure 4. If you're getting up with 3-legged dog, we lift that left foot up with our inhale. Exhale, drive the knee in towards the chest, foot towards the hand, knee towards the left hand. Looking over our right shoulder this time as we press that leg back, resting on top of the shoelaces, keeping the leg running flat with the ground. And then once we square up the body, let's bring our body down. Really trying to establish long lines across the shoulder blades, up and down from tailbone through crown of head. And we'll breathe into this left hip. Taking our final 2 breaths. And then beginning to make our way up onto the hands and back through down dog or child's pose. From our stretch, I'm going to ask us to soften our knees and walk our hands back to the back edge of our mat, coming into a forward fold. Whenever you get here, deciding if you'd like to keep your hands on the ground, hold them on either elbow in ragdoll, or perhaps wrapping them around your legs. Let's keep our knees soft, our head relaxed. In fact, sometimes it's a nice idea to shake the head no, and then nod the head yes. Really loosening the head from the shoulders. Keeping with those slow deep breaths as we stretch up the back of our legs. and preparing for our prayer squat. We'll soften our knees enough to be able to take our hands to the floor, fanning our toes out to the side, maybe widening our stance as wide as the edges of our mat, and then slowly starting to sink the bum down towards the heels. Keeping your heels on the ground the whole time, so only dropping your bum as low as you're comfortable, with the heels staying on the ground, the feet staying flat. Feel free to keep your hands on the ground, or my favorite, as the name implies, with our prayer squat, holding the prayer position, using those elbows to press the knees just a little bit wider, maybe even turning the feet out more. Now drive the tailbone towards the ground, angle the forehead up slightly, opening and exposing heart center as we draw those shoulders down our backs. Slow, deep breath. If we're able to, we'll hold for 2 more breaths. Now taking our time, returning our hands to the ground, slowly taking our knees to the floor and walking ourselves all the way forward, making adjustments as necessary so that we can lower ourselves completely down onto the mat. Now from our prone position, laying stomach down, we'll back our hands up behind our shoulders towards our ribs, lifting up into a cobra stretch that we're going to hold. Whether it's modified or full, your choice, depends on what your body's telling you. Let's roll the shoulders down, lift the pelvis, lift through the eyes if we're able to, soft elbows. And from our cobra, we're going to press back into child's pose, this time widening the knees so they're wider, if that's possible, than the mat. Big toes touch in the back. Walk those hands in, whether they're under the forehead or really extending forward. Noticing that maybe we can press our chin onto the mat rather than the forehead, giving our upper backs a little extra stretch as well. Letting your belly fall through the thighs. We've externally rotated the hip. We've abducted the legs. We have lots of room here for the back. Slowly working our hands underneath our shoulders, pressing ourselves up. We can help our knees in together. As we work ourselves all the way over. We're going to be slowly lowering ourselves back down all the way onto our mats. Take your time as you do so. And from here, feel free to hug the knees in and give yourself a little rock. At this point, with our supine work, we're going to set our feet back down on the floor, preparing for single leg stretches. Taking our right leg all the way up to the ceiling, we hold the thigh or the calf, whatever's more comfortable, allowing our shoulders to relax, the leg to stay very straight, little softness in the knee. If this feels good, staying here. If we need a little bit more, we'll lower that left leg completely down to the floor, intensifying the hamstring stretch of the right leg. Now I'll ask that we take a few deep breaths, staying calm through the face. Preparing to draw the leg across midline of body. We hold the leg with just the left hand, allowing the right hand to come down to the side. And we draw the leg across the midline. Doesn't have to go very far. As soon as we feel a stretch through the outside of that right hip, we're going to hold it. Now at this point, I like to double check that I'm fairly straight through my spine, across my collars and shoulders. And then playing maybe with the foot position, whether it feels better to sickle, point it in, or flex the foot. This changes where the sensation localizes a little bit more strongly. We'll draw the leg through the middle. Hold the leg now with the right hand as we lower the left out to the side for support, and begin to open the leg out to the right. Now at this point, there's lots of ways we can vary it. Maybe it feels good keeping both legs straight, or perhaps you'd rather bend, hooking the hand underneath the knee, maybe even bringing that left knee up as well. Playing with the position, noticing how it feels. Take a few deep breaths as we work through the right inner thigh. Inhale, softening the knee as we draw the leg through the middle, and exhale, release the leg down to the floor. Making any adjustments if we feel like we need to fidget, and prepare to repeat that series on the left leg, drawing the knee first into the body, straightening the leg up to the ceiling, noticing if we want to keep that right leg straight on the floor, if we prefer to bend the knee, placing the foot on the ground. It may change from leg to leg. And now holding the leg either on the calf, the foot, or the thigh. I want us to relax our shoulders. Try to keep the leg relatively straight as we draw the foot in towards the face, never forcing. Feeling, however, just a slight pull of tension. Slow, deep breath. Preparing to cross the leg over midline, we'll allow that left hand to drop down, keeping the leg in the right hand, starting to draw the leg across midline. As soon as we feel a stretch, we can stop, soften our shoulders, and then play with the orientation of the foot. Maybe it's sickled or flexed. Continuing to draw the thigh in towards the belly, the leg is straight. And every now and then you might be able to drop it a little bit or change the angle, noticing the sensation coming up along the outside of the leg. Coming through the middle, switching hands. Left hand holds the leg as we open out to the side. The right hand can drop to the ground. As we draw the left leg open, keeping your hips and shoulders flat on the ground, deciding if you'd like to bend the right leg, maybe bend the left leg, or holding the leg in such a way that we feel a really fantastic amount of sensation. Slow, deep breath. Taking our last inhale here, let's soften the knee as we draw the leg up through the middle. And exhale, release down. We'll bring our arms out to the side, making a T with the body as we prepare for our spinal twist. Inhale, lifting the right knee up 90 degrees. Exhale, lowering over to the left. Keeping the shoulders resting comfortably on the mat. We can choose to look over the right arm if that helps. Feeling a wonderful sensation down that right side. Inhale, lifting the knee up. Exhale, lowering down. Inhale, lift the left knee. Exhale, lower to the right. You can look over that left arm if that helps. Really slowing our breathing. Coming up through the middle. Releasing the legs down. Coming into our relaxation pose. Noticing what this is today. Some days we need to find Shavasana. This is very traditional. This is a wonderful place to end our practice. However, there are times when our backs say otherwise and we require knees bent or even laying on fetal pose and baby position. I'll ask that we listen to our body and find the pose now. Relaxing our shoulders, our hips, letting go of our abdominal muscles as we close our eyes and soften the facial features. deepening our breathing. Working through a 3-part breath. Part 1 is our inhale, drawing the stomach higher. Part 2 is the chest. Part 3 is up through the neck. And then as we release, we allow the neck, the chest, and then finally the rib cage area to completely relax. Noticing the entire body beginning to soften. Slowly starting to wiggle our fingers and our toes, rolling our wrists and ankles in little circles. Taking this moment to stretch anything else that you've now maybe discovered needs a little extra love and care. And we'll be working our way gently up into our final seated pose, where we'll take our last neck stretch before saying goodbye. Working our way through our sides and lifting ourselves all the way through that seated position. Whatever that may look like, whether legs are straight or if they're in nice tucked, let's make sure we're upright and tall. Taking first the right ear down towards the right shoulder. And if it helps, we can press that left arm away. Stretching down the left side of the neck through the upper back and into the shoulder. Coming through the middle, and then taking the left ear down. And we can push that right arm away. Coming through the middle, taking a couple of shoulder rolls, loosening up anything that needs loosening, and then sitting up so tall, taking that final big breath in. Inhale, hands all the way up above head to prayer. Exhaling down through heart center. Namaste. Thank you so very much. Wonderful work. I hope you enjoyed the class, and I look forward to seeing you again next week. Have a great week, everyone.